Welcome back to the channel, and for those of you who are new here, my name is Zachary Guy and I'm a freelance videographer from the Toronto area. Today we're going to be going over the process on how I remake my handles for my gimbal of choice, the Ronin-M. Now, I bought my Ronin used a year and a half ago, and 90% of the videos you see involve using that equipment. The only problem I have with this piece of equipment is the handles have degraded over time. At the end of every one of my shoots, I end up with black rubber all over my hands. As you can see here, this is the top handle and it is seriously degraded. Now, I could just rebuy the handles, but this is something that's going to be in my inventory for a long period of time, so I want something that feels and looks nice. I'm going to be modeling these handles after a handle I bought from Small Rig, and the material that I'm actually going to be using for the handles is wood. I have a variety of hardwoods in stock currently, but I took to Instagram for you guys to decide. And from the poll, Purple Heart was the wood of choice. What I have to do now is take these handles apart and get real world measurements off them. From there, I can take this into a 3D program so I can get a rough idea on how these handles are going to look. Without further ado, let's get into it. So what I just did is I took real life dimensions off these parts using a set of calipers and then wrote down all the dimensions of the actual handles and the handle that I'm going to be making out of wood. So this is just a cylinder to start because this is going to give me my rough dimensions, and what I'm going to do is shape it by hand with rasps and files to actually get the comfort into my own personal hand. One thing I have to consider is the rotation of the handle. So when I'm gripping it and I'm moving my gimbal, I don't want this to rotate at all. What I'm gonna have to do is, because my assembly doesn't have any moving parts such as this, I'm gonna have to actually cross drill through the piece of wood and into the handle itself to actually fix it so it doesn't rotate during use. I could glue it, but this is something I want to be removable, and maybe I want to switch handles in the future. Now, I did the same thing with this part here, but this one is completely plastic, and the only difference here is that these cross holes are gonna have to be shorter distance apart. The reason I'm using two is just for safety. I could definitely just use one, but in this case, I'm just gonna use two. With my rough design figured out, I'm gonna head into the shop and start making these handles. Welcome to the shop. So this is where we're gonna be making the handles. And the first thing you have to consider is when you're making anything is order of operation. So I have my material here, and I'm gonna cut this into my blanks for each of the handles, and then I'm gonna drill the corresponding holes for each handle. So this is going to be the long hole that is going through the center of the piece, and then the cross holes after that. If I were to turn these around or do any filing with them to get them to a shape that's more comfortable for my hand, it would be a very tough time drilling those holes. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I just want to check in with what's going on. So as you saw, I took that rough piece of wood and then cut them into 3 separate pieces. And from there, I took the blade and put it at a 45-degree angle and then knocked off all the corners. So what I did that is because when I'm turning this into a circle, this just gives me less material to actually take off when I'm doing that. And as you can see here, the fit is really good. That pop sound, and then this piece here, the hole didn't have to be as long. Right, so that's a really good fit as well. So now looking at the design, we can't just stop here because if I'm holding this, this is just gonna rotate everywhere. So what I wanna do is capture that using cross holes we saw earlier in the CAD. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna be using these screws here. This is a really small screw, but it's a M4, it's a metric screw. And what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be drilling a hole through here, and then that will give me a hole to put this in. And then after that, I actually have to form the threads on this so this screws in properly and can maintain that tight joint. And the way I'm gonna do that is using something called a tap. Right here is a close-up of a tap. This is not the tap I'm gonna be using. This is just a larger one to show you exactly how they work. So I'm gonna drill a corresponding hole for this tap and then twist this in, and as it twists in, it screws in and cuts those threads using teeth on the tap as well as the relief to actually put the chips that it's going through. So now what I'm gonna do is mark the corresponding holes on each piece and where they're gonna go, and then drill them. So now I have my attached handle blanks to the Ronin pieces, and I did some work off camera just to show you the process that I'm going through. So these are the 3 handles and the 3 different stages that they're gonna be at. So I have the blank here, and then I have the profile, and then the finished piece with profiles on both sides. The look I'm going for is a more organic look and something more natural that I feel similar to a hammer handle, and something that I just feel comfortable in my hand. What you see here is the tools that I'm using, so it's going from heavy cuts to finer cuts and then until sandpaper. So with that being said, now I'm gonna go through the whole process of shaping this handle. We got overhead mic now. Hello. Hey. So this is it. These are the final handles for the Ronin-M that I made out of Purple Heart. Yeah, I was testing the fit when I was actually making the handles, but I'm gonna be using this over long periods of time. So I took this on a 4-hour car shoot, and then that worked really well, and I was really happy with the result. The only thing was, like, it wasn't smooth. So after that, I took it up through the sandpaper grits, and then you saw that with the finishing process with the furniture wax. It puts me in a better mood when I'm actually shooting with stuff that, you know, I made. I obviously didn't make the gimbal, but I made the handles for it. Even with my trailer hitch rig, stuff like that just makes me happy when I'm using the equipment, because it's something I added and something personal to my touch. It's like not stock anymore, and you know, it's something I really enjoy. So if you guys enjoyed this project, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you guys would like to see more DIY projects related to camera equipment, or even not at all, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.